This is Shelley Kraft coming to you live on SNN Live. We're at the New Orleans Investment Conference 2017 in New Orleans. I have with me Brien Lundin, host of the New Orleans Investment Conference, and he's also the editor of the Gold newsletter. Brien, welcome back to SNN Live.
Great to be with you, Shelley, as always.
It's good to have you, and let me tell you, we always love coming to this conference. Year in and year out, it's stupendous. Tell me, let's start with an overview of the conference.
Well, it's a great time in the markets. It's historically a good time for the metals and resource stocks, but this year it's a really good time. I think there's a lot of opportunities out there. And as usual, we bring in the top experts in the metals and mining sector. We also bring in top experts in geopolitics and economics. This is our 43rd annual event. It's the oldest investment conference in the world, and people come back year after year because of the unique intellectual excitement and atmosphere that we have here. As you can see, it's already exciting, people showing up and getting ready, and it's going to be a great 4 days.
Let me ask you, why is it such a good time for the metals industry?
Well, we've had a couple of spurts. We've come off a bottom in December 2015 for gold, in particular gold and silver. And the mining stocks really had a nice run up in 2016. It's been kind of fits and starts in 2017. We had a good run to around 1350, and we've fallen back from that. But the pattern right now is very similar to what we saw the last 2 years, where we had in the fall of 2015 and the fall of 2016, where the markets kind of came back a bit, but then the Fed hiked rates in December, and that served as kind of a launching pad for the metals markets going forward to big rallies the following year. I feel that that's going to happen again this year. The Fed says they're going to raise rates in December once again, and once that happens, it tends to take a lot of the selling pressure off of the gold market and really sets the stage for a really powerful rally in the new year.
You also happen to have a lot of exploration companies. Why is it a good year for them?
Well, they have money now. What we had from 2011 through 2015 was a bear market in the metals, and companies could not raise money. They need to raise money to be able to explore their prospects. 2016, we had that burst of enthusiasm again in the markets. We had companies able to raise money, fill their coffers, and then they got back to work on these properties that had essentially lain fallow for a number of years. So now we're just seeing these companies executing drill programs on some really exciting projects, and the results are starting to come out. And we've seen some companies multiply 3-4 times over very quickly on drill results. And that's the kind of opportunities that we bring to our attendees. In our exhibit hall, we have the best companies in the junior mining sector. There's tons of opportunities there. Over the decades that I've been involved in this conference, we've seen companies in that exhibit hall rise 10, 20, even as much as 40 times over in the weeks following this event. So that's why people come here year after year, and they historically see those kinds of opportunities. But in this market environment right now, I think we're really going to see more. I think the conference is going to perform as it rarely does in these commodity cycles.
Let's talk about your newsletter.
Well, Gold Newsletter is like the New Orleans Conference. It's the oldest in the business. It was started by my mentor, Jim Blanchard, who, of course, started the New Orleans Investment Conference in the early 1970s. It was the vehicle that was created by him to help return the right of gold ownership to American citizens. So we have a very long legacy. We focus on the economics and political situations that affect the metals and mining shares, and then we dive right into specific recommendations. We cover a lot of the companies that are in our exhibit hall right now and make recommendations of companies that we think are going to enjoy exploration success. And as you know, that can be extremely profitable if you get in the right company at the right time.
Brien, what is some criteria that you use in choosing your companies?
Well, it takes decades in the business, literally, to where you get a feel for these kinds of companies. You need a good management team, you need outstanding properties, you need a good share structure. There's a number of things that we go over with, and a lot of our speakers here at the conference go over to educate people on what they need to look for these companies. Plus, it's very important to actually talk to the management teams. Meet them face to face, look them in the eye, ask them the tough questions, ask them what their backup plan is if this doesn't work. So you have to really work hard to separate the chaff from the wheat in these kinds of companies, and this gives you the opportunity to do that. You know, there's probably 3,000 or so exploration companies out there in all different metals and all different stages of their development. And we winnow that down to probably 20 or 30 companies that we think really have the goods and really have put the odds more on your side. It's always kind of a long shot business, but what you want to do is put the odds as much in your favor as possible.
What are you speaking on at your own conference?
Really that. I'm going to talk about the opportunity I see in the market. I'm going to talk about why higher gold prices are essentially inevitable right now. And that gets to the problems with the huge debt loads that the United States and other developed countries have created. How that debt will be handled. It has to be handled by some level of currency depreciation. That will be very bullish for metals. And in my workshop here, I'm going to dig down into some more details and specific companies.
Did you do comparisons of, for instance, a successful exploration company that transferred from development into production, and what are those goals that an exploration company should look for?
Yeah, exploration companies these days, they're good explorers, don't make good mine builders. So what you want is somebody that can find a deposit, but then hand it over to a larger company or get bought out or have a joint venture of a larger company that will actually go in and develop the project. So there's actually a well-established curve, an evaluation curve, as a project gets discovered, gets drilled off, goes through all of the permitting and delineation and economic studies, then gets built and gets into production. There are points along that curve where you want to be as an investor, and there are points that you want to avoid as an investor. So, yeah, we get into all of that here.
So, Brien, what message would you like to give our audience based on the education that you provide?
Well, I think this is an outstanding time, through the fall particularly, to invest in metals and mining shares. To do that, I would advise them to go to our websites. That's neworleansconference.com and goldnewsletter.com. We have a free report there that explains how to invest in this sector, what to look for. Goes into great detail, tells them what conferences to go to, tells them what newsletters they should subscribe to. And then I think they need to subscribe to some of the best newsletters out there, not just mine, but there's a number of other really good people out there. And go to conferences, go to events, and educate themselves, because this sector can be remarkably profitable, but it's risky as well, and it takes education, and they really need to put in the time and effort to do that.
Let's give your websites one more time, if you would.
neworleansconference.com and goldnewsletter.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, Brien Lundin, host of the New Orleans Investment Conference, editor of the Gold Newsletter. We are right here at his conference at the New Orleans Investment Conference 2017 in New Orleans. I'm Shelley Kraft. This is SNN Live. Brien, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Shelley.
My pleasure.